So our organization believes that as innovative therapies and robust pipelines are moving forward, patients and providers need to better understand how to understand which therapies are available and suitable for which patients at which time. And we know that there are value frameworks and value framework developers that are trying to help inform that decision making and utilize evidence to provide the inputs for that decision making. So many years ago, ICER, who is the value framework developer in our space, did forecasting saying that they would evaluate 3 Duchenne products, which is the disease space that we operate in. So we began to familiarize ourselves with the ICER framework and recognize that many of the innovative data elements that were being developed in Duchenne focused on patient-focused drug development, quality and quantity of life in Duchenne would not fit into the existing framework for ICER. So we reached out to ICER to better understand their model and their framework and how we could become involved. At that time, ICER, because of our pipeline and changes in the drug development pipeline, determined they would not be doing the assessment, but we continued to engage with them and talk to them about their framework. They eventually came back to us and continued the discussion around the existing framework, ways that it could potentially be modified, potential limitations of their framework when evaluating rare disease products, and ultimately determined that they would conduct a summit looking at these questions. That summit included us as well as many other rare disease partners, pharmacists, drug developers, payers. We participated in that working group that planned that summit, and we participated in the comment periods and the briefing documents leading into and out of that summit. Fast forward many years, we did have approvals in Duchenne, and our first ICER assessment was conducted over the last 6 months for the first 3 Duchenne specific products. And again, we engaged very closely with ICER on that assessment as we participated in the comment periods, made sure that the experts in Duchenne and methodologists who've been generating data were the ones to really provide feedback. Our biggest concern was that the model that ICER was using was a firm foundation for reviewing Duchenne products. The process extends about 6 months. It's an iterative process that includes several comment periods, open comment periods for the public. ICER consults or contracts to model a team of modelers, and the modelers gather data from experts, methodologists, clinicians, members of the patient community to understand the disease, the natural history of the disease progression, the standard of care in the disease. So that was an opportunity for us to provide input there and to make sure that people that we wanted ICER to be talking to, real Duchenne experts, were also being consulted and to provide input. Then the modelers begin to build their model, they publish that model, and people then again can comment on that and provide inputs. The model does not always shift significantly, but again, there are opportunities for people to be reviewing it and commenting along the way. That's a really important question. So for patient groups who are, first of all, if you're a patient group and you are engaged in therapy development, I would recommend that you get it started very early and that you consider the value assessment a key part of the therapy development and access process. All of us are engaged in this because ultimately we want there to be effective therapies that optimize outcomes for our patients, and they must be accessible to the families that we serve. And the valuation is an important piece of this process. And so as we are developing natural histories and animal models and collecting data to better understand the quality of life and the burden of disease within our communities, we must also familiarize ourselves with the valuation process and what the data and inputs that will be brought into that process are. I think many of us think of this as something that happens very late in the drug development process, but the data that we need to inform that evidence must be collected early. So first of all, understand who your framework developers are. There are many of them. Get to know them. get to know other organizations that have worked with them before, learn from them and learn from the hindsight, understand what kind of data and evidence goes into that model, make sure that the literature they're going to be reviewing is recent and current, and understand what the engagement process is, what the turnaround time for comments are there health economists that will work with you in developing those? Most of us aren't health economists, so can you bring somebody in who will work with you pro bono, or is there a budget that your board will approve to work with this? But it is a process that is meaningful and that patient groups can powerfully engage in, and really must if we want to ensure that the products that we're working so hard to be approved are available to our patient communities. One of the things I think is really important that must be brought into all of this is that one of the underlying things that I think gets missed sometimes in the trying to do the math on the value of products is the value of the yet to fully be known against what we know are the definitive outcomes if we do nothing in the diseases in which we work.